Welcome. You're watching this video because I'm guessing you're in a lot of pain, or you're in a little bit of pain, or you don't know how to solve some injury problems. That's why I'm sitting here, because I was in the same situation as you for many years. I was in a lot of pain, and I just wanted to get out of it. And sorry to tell you, but there's no simple answer. If there was, all the videos on YouTube, the number one reason behind people like that's giving though that are giving those reasons would be out of a job as well as me. This is millions of years of evolution. And so our mind, this is a universe in here, by the way, if you don't know, our body and our psyche are very complicated. And so I thought I'd make this video in different parts explaining the complexity of it. Anytime that you get sick of me, just stop watching. But if you want to hear my whole diatribe, please continue on. So back to pain. Why? You're probably asking, because I get asked thousands of times by my, whatever you want to call them, patients, clients, students, why am I in pain? Why is my knee hurting so much? Please tell me. I want to know the answer now because I need instant gratification. So I was in the same boat before, and sometimes I still am. I'm like, why the hell is this? Well, the answer that I've come up with, I don't know if it's simple, is because of the physical and emotional environment that you were brought into when you were born and how you decided to react to those environments. Let me explain. So, Thomas Myers, one of my teachers, structural integration teachers, I'm an anatomy trained structural integrator, which is based upon Dr. Ida Rolf's work, osteopath, chiropractic, body manipulation, basically. Tom talks about this, that structural compensation. We compensate. The body compensates according to our different environments. So when we have, for example, let's say the emotional environment, okay? So when let's say you're 10 years old and you don't want to do the dishes. Your father comes in and says, "Why didn't you do the dishes?" More than likely, you reacted one of two ways. The first one was protection. In neurology, they call it the dorsal vagus tone. Stephen Porges talks about this, that the mammal, to protect itself, will go into the fetal position because the fetal position is the safest position for all mammals, because the unconscious and the central nervous system wants to go back to the womb, which is the safest time in our lives. The other choice is fight or flight. I want to get the hell away from here. Okay. Now, most of the time, no matter how badly our parents treat us, if they physically abuse us or emotionally abuse us, they are our primary caregivers. And Dr. Gabor Mate talks about this extensively. We do not want to sever the relationship. Some children do, and they run away from home, but most of us grin and bear it, and we just stay there. Now, the body and the unconscious will create an adaptation to withstand our parents yelling at us and putting up with it. So we will do things like this. We will clench our jaw. We will clench our fists. Now, there's a term in physics called transduction. Okay, for some of you who don't believe that the reason behind your pain is emotional, let me explain a little bit of a scientific idea here. Okay, the word transduction. You may have heard it. I heard it before. I didn't really understand what it meant, but this is what it means. When a mechanical force transforms into an electrochemical stimuli. I'll say that again. A mechanical force transforms into an electrochemical stimuli. Now, that mechanical force can be an emotional force because everything is particles and waves, right? Frequency. And emotions are different emotions have different frequencies. Anger, for one. Did you hear that? And so that's a very fast frequency. Your body will absorb that wave within the central nervous system. And when it's absorbed, if you cannot run away, it's called uncompleted action in psychology, meaning that you cannot complete the action of running away from that trauma. So it's stored in the physical body. And you see people walking around like this all the time. I see it every day in my practice. People with hunched soldiers becoming soldiers, shoulders, this kind of position, feet close together. A lot of women do this because they don't want to be thought of as this. Now, of course, that's the emotional element. What about the physical environment? Well, when you go to school, you have to adapt to your teachers. You have to sit in a desk. You play sports. You hide from the bully. You decide to become the jock and your chest comes out like this, right? These are all, again, emotional reactions, but they're also physical reactions to your environment. You want to become a meathead. You want to become the yogi. You want to become... So all these environments are determining experimentation, as Tom calls it. Experimenting a certain gesture, okay? The gesture then becomes a habit. The habit then becomes posture. The posture then becomes the structure of your body. I'll say that again, okay? The gesture of adaptation to make others happy. No, I don't want to say no because I want you to like me. And so I will be meek and say yes to everything, okay? Then that becomes a habit every day. I want to be the nicest person. I want everyone to like me. And then that habit becomes posture, and that posture becomes structure. And then, why is the back of my neck hurting? Oh, because I've been slouching and saying yes to everyone. When the problem is not here, it's here, okay? And that's the next segment. Okay. Why? How? Remember, I was talking about the reasons? I want to give you the reasons of concentric loading and eccentric loading. You're probably thinking, what the hell is he... Okay, so when people talk about, my neck is tight, I always ask them, what kind of tightness? And everybody gives me this, what? Look, I was the same before. I knew nothing about the body, nothing. And so there are two types of tightness, okay? There is, when we look at myofascial tissue, surrounding muscle tissue, and basically surrounding everything in the body, because that's what the myofascial web, the connective tissue web, because there are many different types of connective tissue. Myofascial tissue is just one type of connective tissue. When we look at myofascial tissue surrounding muscles, again, there's two types of tightness. When you look at muscles underneath a microscope, they're called sarcomeres. They look kind of like this. Now, when a muscle is concentrically loaded, that means that the muscle goes towards the median axis. This is basically what we call compression. So lift a lot of weights, become a meathead, sit in front of a computer, sit in a car like this. Your pecs, the front part of your body, becomes compressed, okay? Concentric loading. But look at my back. There's always a reciprocal relationship between concentric loading and the other type of tightness that's eccentric loading, meaning that the tissues get pulled long. You see that angle? That angle is long, and those tissues in the back of my neck are being pulled long. Or if I were to lean like this, look at my lower back, like that. Which side is compressed? This side. But this is the side that's pain, so doctor, please fix it. Oh, okay, we'll go after the pain. Hello? Oh, God. So this is a big thing with a lot of not only Western trained doctors, but also Asian, Chinese medicinal doctors as well. They're going after the pain. We're not going after the pain. We're going after the causes of the pain. And the causes of the pain are the compression and the concentric loading. So let's get back to that eccentric loading because this is super important. When the eccentric loading, when the tissue is being pulled long, it becomes thinner and thinner. It's like pulling a rubber band. It's kind of like this, because this is kind of what the myofascial web looks like. Now, this is healthy myofascial tissue, but if it gets pulled long, it'll tear. And when it tears, what happens? Ah, I pulled something, I pulled a muscle. More than likely, you pulled myofascial tissue. And so myofascial tissue takes a lot longer to repair than muscle tissue. It takes at least 3 to 6 months for the for the myofascial tissue to repair itself. So when it gets pulled and then it tears, what happens? These things called fibroblasts come in and they repair and they create collagen and they create new tissue, but there's scar tissue in there. There's edema, there's stress hormones, cytokines they're called. And so that's where these trigger points come from. And so you hit them, and you see it here in Asia where I live a lot. You go to parks and old men are like, and then they stretch it out and they do this shit. No, this will never work. I used to do this, and it would give me relief for about 30 seconds, and then it would hurt again. So we do need to break up the scar tissue, but we first need to take away the compression. Because look, if I'm slouched like this, in relation to gravity, so a little physics question for you. So if I hold this from the bottom, it's fairly light. But then when I bring it forward like this, it changes weight and becomes heavier. I'll give you a few seconds to reply. So there's more mass. There's more mass in relation to gravity. And when there's more mass in relation to gravity, that means there's more mechanical force upon the structure. And when there's more mechanical force upon the structure, guess what happens? There's more pain in the back. The compression part is compressed. You can't really feel it because it's compressed. That's when we suppress or compress our feelings, we don't understand our feelings. But when we open up to our feelings, we listen to a lot of Stevie Wonder so when we take away this compression, the hidden criminals, I call them, okay, and then we create equilibrium between the front and the back part of the body, then you have equal distribution of weight. And then the structure is more solid, and then it can absorb forces a lot better. Not only physical, but emotional forces. I'm confident in myself. Not overconfident, because look, if I'm overconfident, I create hinge points in the back of my spine. You meatheads. I used to be a meathead. I tried to be, but then it caused me pain in my back. Anyway, so that's one of the, I would say, keys to the kingdom of helping yourself get out of pain. Now, what are the other causes? There's hypertonicity and hypotonicity. So hyper, right? That's when the tone of the muscles, not only the muscles, but everything in the body, the central nervous system, I was on the go. I got to do it. I got to get to work. I got to work overtime. I got to push myself. I got to solve all these problems. And so the tissues become so overused, and you're stuck in sympathetic nervous system mode all the time. And this is most of us, because we're so driven, especially in countries that have gone through an industrial revolution, and we're always pushing ourselves. I'm American, and so we got to be the best ever. Well, folks, guess what that produces? Anxiety, high anxiety. And so with that anxiety, guess what? Remember transduction? With that anxiety, that produces, I'm always in fight or flight. Hey, give me another cup of coffee, please, so then I can be ready for the meeting and everything. And then all of a sudden, I hit a fucking wall, and then I collapse, and then I'm out for like a year, and then I get chronic fatigue syndrome, and then I get cancer, because I don't know how to calm the fuck down, and I don't know how to get in touch with my emotional self and calm my nervous system down. And so I have thousands of people come to me, I've had over the years, come to me, and they're just exhausted, and they're like, but I work out, I run ultramarathons, and I run triathlons, and I'm so in shape. Yeah, because you're tired, Holmes. Because you need to rest and calm down and stop looking for validity from your parents who abused you. Scratch the needle. I just wanted to pause right here and apologize for me using the word abused. I get passionate when I talk about these things, and maybe that was a little bit too drastic. Not everybody was abused. There are different levels of emotional trauma that we have to deal with. Each person, no one escapes trauma. And when I use the word trauma, people think of the being abused. It doesn't have to be abuse. It can also be just neglect, our parents not there for us because they were too busy, being overprotective, giving us too much pressure to achieve, and you got to be the best. Basically, parents not accepting us for who we are. And it's totally understandable. It's no one's fault. Our parents are working through their own trauma of their childhood, and it's passed down from generation to generation to generation, and it doesn't stop until we deal with it and we confront it with the pain and the hurt when we were rejected by anyone who gave us a disapproving look, who didn't accept us for who we were, who, like, the list goes on and on. We all are dealing with it, and we need to accept it as a part of life, but we also need to forgive the people that hurt us and forgive ourselves and realize that it's no one's fault, including ourselves. Okay? All right, back to it. Anyway, so basically, trauma, we got to validate, we got to show that we're worthy and that we're worthy of love. And so we push ourselves and we disassociate, and that creates chronic pain. Now, the other side of the coin, hypotonicity. I feel sorry for myself. That was me when I was a teenager. And my adult life, most of my adult life, I'm a victim. Please help me. Feel sorry for me. And so I would go into these positions when I was younger. This is my favorite, my pouting one. No, leave me alone. Don't. And so then I wouldn't work out. When I was little, I wouldn't take care of myself. I was skinny. I mean, look at me. I still am skinny. But now I'm strong. But so hypotonicity means that people kind of give up and they don't want to take care of themselves. And so the muscles atrophy, the myofascial tissues atrophy, sluggish, not enough energy. So what do we do next? Okay, so how do we create, one, new options for movement, for better movement, and a reduction in pain? Okay, so pain, we're never going to be free of pain, meaning that we have periods. I think that we have periods, sometimes longer than others, of being pain free. But we live in duality. We can never escape pain. The question is, when we do encounter pain, how do we reduce it quicker? And how do we come to terms with it so it doesn't have such a big influence upon us? You know, I love Thomas Meyer's definition of pain, that it's a sensation with a tendency to pull away. And if we don't feel the need to pull away, then it just becomes a sensation. And I'm not saying that you should endure chronic pain for years on end. I'm just saying that hopefully through these videos that you're about to sign up for, and we're all salesmen selling ourselves. Who am I kidding? That before, I was in a situation in my 20s and 30s where sometimes it took me years to be able to get out of pain, certain parts of my body, my knees, my back, all this. And I searched the globe to find people to help teach me how to get myself out of pain. That's why I did it, because I didn't want to become reliant upon others. I wanted to learn how to get out of pain like that. And that's what I'm able to do now. Sometimes it takes me a few minutes. Sometimes it takes me maybe a couple hours, maybe a couple days, maybe a month, but not the way it used to, where I was in chronic pain for years. And so what I'm trying to do is to be able to teach you how to be able to do that for yourself so you won't become dependent upon people like me. So the first step is myofascial release. Find people like me, structural integrators, and we'll get our hands in there and release the compression within your body. If you don't have anyone, you're not sure where to find these people, email me. I'll try to help find somebody near you. If not, fly to Asia. I'll help you out. If you can't afford that, rollers and balls. And a lot of these videos I go through teaching you how to properly use balls and rollers in a safe, gentle way. And hopefully you're going to find a practitioner that doesn't force you into something that you're going to then guard, as they call in the physio world, where the nervous system just shuts down because it's bringing it. The brain thinks that the pain that you're feeling is very similar to the pain when you were younger, and it just, nope, I'm not letting anyone in. And so that's another element that I'll talk about a little bit later. But First, myofascial release. Think about it this way. The metaphor I've been using recently with clients is the pain. Think about a tug of war rope, okay? And in the middle of the rope, you've got that string that's dangling from the middle of the rope, right? Determinant of which way it goes, that team wins. That rope that's hanging is your pain. It's being pulled not only by one rope, but let's say maybe 10 ropes or 15 ropes. So if it's the knee, maybe it's the foot. There's a rope connected down here, your big toe, your fibularis, your tibialis anterior, your adductors, your glute med, all these pulling on the knee. So first you have to find the ropes. People like me can help you find those. We do a body reading. You send me pictures. I can see where you're holding compression. Or like I said, you can find people who are able to do that. And then we gently go in and we talk to those people pulling those ropes, metaphorically, and we let them go in a gentle way. Because remember, the soft overcomes the hard, not the hard overcomes the hard. Too much force will, again, make you guard. Then movement. Movement is key, and a variety of movement. So that comes down to basically lengthening the short, the concentric tissue, and strengthening the long. So that means that yoga is not applicable to everything. But my physio said that I should do some yoga. Well, for specific tissues, yes, that tissues that are short. But the tissues that are already long, if you stretch it more, they're going to tear more. So you don't want to do that. So strengthening and flexibility in combination in specific tissues. So think about it this way. Let's say one day or just in one workout alone, you're first releasing things with rollers and balls. Then you're stretching the tissue that needs to be stretched. Then you're starting to strengthen the tissues that need to be weakened, that are weakened, that need to be strengthened. Okay. And so within one workout, you can do yoga, you can do Pilates, you could do weightlifting, kettlebells, spring work, ring work, TRX, functional movement patterns. So you have this variety, so then you can teach the tissues adaptivity. Am I saying that word correctly? Adaptability. Meaning that think about the environment that you expose yourself to. That environment could be gardening, tennis, surfing, sitting in front of a desk for 8 hours a day, cooking, standing on your feet, whatever that environment is. How do we train the tissues to become adaptable to those different environments that you expose yourself to? When you do, then you have resilience and you have mobility, because flexibility and strength, if they make love, their love child is mobility, adaptability. Okay, so we've got those. We got the rollers and balls, and then we've got basically the stretching, the movement, okay, mobility training. Then the emotional element. Remember, I was talking before about transduction and how trauma influences our physical presence and our emotional state. So go see a therapist. Yes, you're not crazy. You need to talk to someone. And talk therapy is great, but that's just kind of like snorkeling. You got to put on the tanks and you got to go deep into the ocean, and that means going deep into the unconscious. So a somatic therapist, unconscious therapy, Gestalt psychotherapy, the form that I've been practicing for years and that I'm trying to become a practitioner is called Hakomi. And it's going deep into the unconscious, because that's how we come to terms with this deeper issue of anxiety, because the anxiety creates stress and stress creates bodily tension. I read this book years ago about anxiety, and the scientist who wrote it, I'll never forget this sentence. He wrote, think about the word disease. Disease is a state of dis-ease, D-I-S-ease. When we're not in a state of ease, Like what I just said, it creates stress, which creates disease. We're stuck in sympathetic nervous system mode most of the day. You have to. We need to be in sympathetic nervous system mode to function a lot of the times, right? To work, to get things done, to drive a car, deal with stress. I'm not debating that. I'm just saying when we clock out, when we get away from those stressful environments, can we come into a state of ease? Especially when we're on rollers or balls, or people like me work on you, can we let go of control and let out and talk to that part of us that needs nourishment, that needs to show vulnerability, to let go of that burden that we carry within us, those guardians at the gate that I call them. That's the trick. Because one of my favorite quotes mm, about the ego was by Alan Watts. He called the ego a chronic habitual state of muscular tension. I'll say that again. A chronic habitual state of muscular tension. Most of us carry that habitual tension within our bodies and our heart, our soul, our spirit, our central nervous system, our brain, whatever you want to call it. And that restricts us from creating space and ease within our bodies. How do we let that go? Hopefully, I can teach you how to let go of that chronic habitual state. That's why I got into this work, because I was in a chronic habitual state, and I did this to get myself out of it and have longer periods of respite from emotional and physical pain. So hopefully you can join me for that, and I can give you the tools so then you can be autonomous like I am now. Okay, thanks.